That morning, no one expected a single act of defiance to change military history. What began as routine training became a moment every soldier on base would remember, and one that would test the difference between following orders and doing what's right. The sun hung low over the coastal base in Virginia, casting long shadows across the dew-slicked parade ground. Petty Officer First Class Marcus Hale stood at attention with his unit, the sharp crack of boot heels echoing as the formation snapped into place. The air carried the salt tang of the nearby Chesapeake Bay, mingling with the faint scent of gun oil from the morning's equipment checks. Hale's SEAL team, Echo Platoon, had just completed a dawn run, 6 miles through the dunes, hearts pounding in rhythm with the cadence calls. Now they awaited the commander's brief, uniforms crisp, rifles slung at their sides. "Platoon, attention!" The voice of Lieutenant Commander Reyes cut through the quiet like a knife. Reyes was a veteran of 2 deployments, his face etched with lines from years under desert suns. He paced the front of the formation, eyes scanning each man. "At ease. We've got a joint op today. Local PD called in support for a missing persons search. Civilian matter, 11-year-old girl vanished from her home in the adjacent town last night. No leads, no ransom. We're providing K9 assets and overwatch." Hale's hand rested lightly on the harness of his partner, Rex, a Belgian Malinois with a coat the color of wet sand. Rex sat motionless at Hale's left heel, ears pricked, his dark eyes fixed on the horizon. The dog was Hale's shadow, trained through endless hours of scent work and tactical drills. They'd bonded during Hale's first quals, when Rex had refused to leave his side during a simulated breach, even as simulated rounds cracked overhead. That loyalty wasn't just instinct. It was forged in the quiet moments, brushing mud from Rex's fur after a night op, sharing MRE scraps under starlit skies. In the SEALs, trust like that was rarer than a flawless insertion. The platoon murmured assent, shifting weight in their boots. Hale felt the familiar weight of his gear. Vest, sidearm holstered at his hip, the radio clipped to his shoulder, crackling faintly with bass chatter. Routine joint ops were standard, bridged the gap between military precision and civilian chaos, but something in Reyes's tone set Hale's jaw tight. The commander continued, "Hale, your lead on K9. Rex has the best track record for urban searches. Coordinate with the sheriff's team at 0900. Keep it clean, no deviations. We're guests here." "Aye, sir," Hale replied, his voice steady. He saluted, fist to chest, the motion precise. Reyes nodded, dismissing the platoon to prep. As the men broke formation, Hale knelt to check Rex's paws, the dog's pads still cool from the run. "Good boy," he murmured, scratching behind Rex's ears. The Malinois leaned into the touch, a low rumble in his throat. Affirmation, not demand. Hale had seen Rex detect IEDs in Afghanistan, explosives buried under sand that men missed. If anyone could find this girl, it was them. By 0830, the convoy rolled out, 2 Humvees flanked by local cruisers, Hale and Rex in the lead vehicle. The town of Elmwood unfolded beyond the windshield. Modest clapboard houses lining streets shaded by oaks, the bay's inlet glinting in the distance. It was the kind of place where kids rode bikes without helmets, doors left unlocked. But today, yellow tape cordoned off a residential block, and volunteers in fluorescent vests combed backyards with flashlights, even in daylight. The sheriff, a stocky man named Harlan with a mustache like steel wool, met them at the command post. A folding table under a pop-up tent near the girl's home. "Appreciate the assist, Petty Officer," Harlan said, shaking Hale's hand firmly. His deputies hovered, clipboards in hand, faces drawn from a sleepless night. "We've got her sent baseline from her bedroom, hairbrush, clothes, name's Emily Carter, last seen heading to the dock for a swim. Water's been dragged, but nothing." Hale nodded, clipping Rex's lead. "Rex is ready. We'll start with the primary scent." He took the evidence bag from a deputy, letting the dog sniff the fabric inside. Rex's nostrils flared, committing the trace to memory. The volunteers paused their search, watching as Hale gave the command, "Such, Rex! Track!" The dog moved forward, nose low, tail stiff. Hale followed, the leash taut in his gloved hand. The street was alive with quiet urgency. Neighbors whispering on porches, a child's bicycle abandoned by a curb. Rex weaved through the tape, pausing at a storm drain, then dismissing it with a huff. They pushed toward the waterfront, the air growing heavier with humidity and the faint rot of tidal mud. Hours ticked by under the climbing sun. The search grid expanded, boats motoring slow circles in the inlet. Sweat beaded on Hale's brow, soaking his collar, but he kept pace, Rex's focus unyielding. At the edge of the boat dock, an empty stretch of weathered planks jutting into the water, Rex halted. The dog sat abruptly, a trained alert, his gaze locked on the rippling surface below. No barking, no frenzy, just that deliberate stillness. Hale's pulse quickened. "Alert!" he called out, voice carrying to the nearby deputies. "Rex has something." Harlan jogged over, his boots thudding on the wood. "What is it?" "Scent trail." "Possible," Hale said, scanning the dock. It was deserted, save for a forgotten fishing rod leaning against a piling. No signs of struggle, no items left behind. But Rex didn't budge, his body rigid, nose twitching toward the water's edge. Hale knelt, peering into the murk, but saw only shadows and minnows darting. The sheriff radioed his team. "All units, converge on the main dock. K9 hit." Volunteers trickled in, murmuring, as a diver prepped nearby. Reyes's voice crackled over Hale's comms. "Report, Hale. What's the dog signaling?" "Water entry point, sir. Rex is locked on." Hale's hand rested on Rex's head, feeling the subtle tremor of certainty in the dog's frame. This wasn't a false positive. Hale knew that much. But as the team assembled, a deputy muttered something about overtime budgets, and Harlan shot him a look. The search had stretched resources thin, and whispers of calling it off rippled through the group. Hale stood, ignoring the doubt. Orders were to support, but conscience tugged. Emily was out there, somewhere. Rex's sit wasn't just instinct, it was a call to action. As the diver splashed in, Hale wondered if this lead would hold, or if the chain of command would demand they pull back before the truth surfaced. The bay lapped at the dock, indifferent, while the weight of the morning settled like fog. The diver's bubbles broke the surface in steady rhythm, the water churning slightly as he descended into the inlet's murk. Hale kept his eyes on the ripples, Rex still seated beside him, unblinking. The dog's flanks rose and fell with controlled breaths, his alert unwavering, despite the growing crowd of deputies and volunteers pressing against the dock's railing. Harlan paced the planks, his radio squawking updates from other search sectors, nothing but false trails and exhausted teams. The sun climbed higher, turning the humidity into a sticky veil that clung to Hale's uniform, the salt air now laced with the sharp tang of neoprene from the diver's gear. "Petty officer," Harlan said, lowering his voice as he approached. His face was flushed, not just from the heat, but from the pressure of a small-town crisis spilling into daylight. "Appreciate the dog's work, but we've got limited divers on call. If this doesn't pan out, Sheriff's Department might have to scale back. Budget's tight, and the family's asking questions." Hale nodded, his posture straight, hand lightly on Rex's harness. "Understood, sir. Rex doesn't false alert. We'll wait it out." He glanced at the evidence bag still clipped to his vest, the faint scent of Emily's hairbrush lingering in his mind as much as in the dog's. In training, they'd drilled this scenario 100 times. Urban track to water recovery, precision over haste. But civilians operated on different timelines. News crews were already visible across the inlet. Cameras trained on the dock like distant sentinels. Reyes's voice cut through Hale's earpiece again, crisp and measured. "Hale, status. Lieutenant Commander here. Local command pushing for confirmation?" "Affirmative, sir. Divers at depth. Rex holding position." Hale kept his response tight, protocol ingrained from years of ops where every word could shift momentum. Echo Platoon's role was support, not lead. Observe, assist, extract. But as minutes stretched, doubt crept in from the edges. A deputy nearby shifted uncomfortably, muttering to a colleague about military overkill for a kid's swim gone wrong. Hale's jaw tightened. He'd heard it before, the subtle friction when SEAL assets crossed into civilian turf. Respect for the uniform, but resentment for the intrusion. The diver surfaced after what felt like an eternity, gasping as his handler hauled him up by the tank straps. Water streamed from his mask, pooling on the dock. "Negative on visuals," he reported, voice muffled by the regulator bite. "Visibility's trash down there, mud and weeds, but I felt something. Debris, maybe a snag, need more gear to probe." Harlan rubbed his chin, eyes flicking to the gathering crowd. Parents with missing posters clutched in hands, a woman, likely Emily's mother, standing at the water's edge, her sundress fluttering in the breeze. "All right, let's rig the sonar boat. But if it's just trash, we're not dragging the whole bay." He turned to Hale. "Your dog's solid, I'll give you that, but we can't chase every hunch." Rex whined softly then, a rare break in his silence, nose pointing insistently toward a cluster of pilings, half submerged at the dock's end. Hale followed the line of sight, spotting nothing but barnacle-crusted wood and floating algae. "Recheck, Rex," he commanded quietly, releasing the leash just enough for the dog to work. Rex rose, circling the spot with deliberate steps, then sat again. Closer this time, his body aligned with the water's shadow. Tension rippled through the team. A volunteer, an older man in a faded Elmwood FD cap, leaned over the rail. "That dog's onto something. My boy fishes here. Doc's got undercurrents. Could pull a kid under quick." Murmurs agreed, but Harlan held up a hand, radioing for the boat. As it motored in, low and purposeful, Hale felt the weight of eyes on him, not just the sheriff's, but Reyes's through the comms link. "Hale, advise if we need to loop in base JAG. Don't want this escalating." "Copy, sir. Standing by." Hale's mind raced through protocols. K9 alerts were evidentiary, admissible in court, but in a joint op, chain of command meant deference to locals. Yet conscience gnawed. Emily's scent was real. Rex's signal irrefutable. He'd seen the dog ignore distractions in worse conditions, dust storms in Helmand, where a single whiff saved a squad from ambush. Pulling back now felt like abandoning a teammate. The sonar operator, a young ensign from the base, arrived with his kit, uncoiling cables across the dock. "Scanning the grid," he announced, powering up the unit. The screen flickered to life on a laptop, green pulses mapping the bottom in jagged lines. Harlan hovered, deputies forming a loose semicircle. Hale knelt beside Rex, murmuring reassurance, the dog's fur warm under his palm. The hum of the equipment blended with the lap of waves, a rhythmic underscore to the weight. Minutes later, the ensign straightened. "Contact. Anomalous shape. 10 feet down. Near those pilings. Not natural. Too angular. Could be wreckage or something else." Harlan's face hardened. "Mark it. Get the recovery team." He clapped Hale on the shoulder, a gesture bridging the divide. "Your partner just bought us time. Tell your commander we're proceeding." But as the recovery divers prepped, a new wrinkle emerged. One of Harlan's deputies, a wiry sergeant named Klein, pulled the sheriff aside, voice low but carrying on the breeze. "Boss, this is getting big. Media's here and command's on my ass about resources. If it's a body, fine. But what if it's nothing? We look like fools chasing a dog's nose." Harlan waved him off, but the words hung. Hale overheard, his grip tightening on the leash. Klein's skepticism wasn't malice, it was exhaustion. The grind of small-town duty where every call drained the pot. Still, it tested Hale. Obey the joint command and let locals steer, or push Rex's lead harder. Loyalty to the mission clashed with the rigid lines of authority. Reyes crackled in, "Hale, hold formation. No independent action." "Aye, sir." But as the first recovery line splashed in, Hale watched Rex. the dog's eyes reflecting the water's glint. The bond between them was silent testimony, trust the unseen, act on certainty. The dock creaked under the team's weight, the search teetering on revelation or retreat. In the SEALs, orders were lifeblood, but moments like this revealed the fractures, when protocol met the raw edge of right and wrong. The bay whispered secrets, and Hale braced for what might surface next, the morning's routine now a fulcrum for something deeper. The recovery team's lines tautened in the water, the winch on the boat humming with mechanical precision as it hauled the anomaly from the depths. Hale stood rooted to the dock, Rex at his side, the dog's ears forward in that quiet vigilance that always signaled unwavering focus. The air thickened with anticipation, the scent of diesel from the boat mixing with the briny undertow pulling at the pilings. Deputies leaned against the railings, their radios falling silent for the first time that morning, while volunteers held their breath, the missing posters fluttering like flags in the breeze. Harlan directed the operation with clipped commands, his voice steady over the lap of waves. Easy on the line, no rush, keep it clean. The shape broke the surface slowly, not wreckage but a child's backpack, sodden and tangled in weeds. The bright pink fabric faded under the inlet's murk. A deputy snagged it with a boat hook, water sluicing off as it thudded onto the deck. Hale's pulse steadied. It was Emily's, initials embroidered on the strap, the one her mother had described in the briefing. "Got a hit," Harlan announced, unzipping the pack with gloved hands. Inside, soaked notebooks and a lunchbox, but no body. Relief rippled through the group, murmurs breaking the tension like a held breath released. The ensign cross-checked the sonar. The angular shape was just a submerged crate nearby, dragged by current. But Rex's alert had zeroed in on the backpack's trail. Scent carried underwater, faint but persistent, leading them here. Hale knelt, letting Rex sniff the recovered item. The dog nosed it briefly, then circled back to the water's edge, sitting once more at the same spot. "Trail continues, sir," Hale said to Harlan, his tone factual, no push. Rex is indicating downstream. In Joint Ops protocol, K9 leads deferred to primary command, but Hale's training screamed otherwise. Follow the track until exhausted or contradicted by evidence. The backpack was progress, but not closure. Harlan nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. "Good work. We'll drag the channel." He radioed the boat crew, but Klein, the skeptical deputy, stepped forward, his face tight. "Sheriff, hold up. We've got the pack. Kid probably swam out, got caught in the tide. Call the family. This might be enough to shift to recovery mode." His words carried to the crowd, drawing nods from a few exhausted volunteers. Media drones buzzed overhead now, capturing the moment for evening news. Reyes's voice crackled in Hale's earpiece, low and urgent. "Hale, stand down on further tracking. Locals have the lead. Our roles support only. Echo platoons not turning this into a full-op extract if they rap." "Aye, sir," Hale replied automatically, but his hand tightened on Rex's lead. The command was clear. Military assets augmented, not overrode. Yet Rex's sit wasn't a suggestion. It was evidence, honed from drills, where ignoring a dog's signal meant lives lost. Emily's mother approached the dock then, her eyes red-rimmed, clutching a photo. "Did you find her? Please, she's afraid of water." "Not yet, Mum," Hale said, saluting subtly, "but we're close." Her gaze on Rex softened the knot in his chest. In the SEALs, ops ended on orders, but this blurred lines. Civilian life hanging on a thread, his partner's instinct pulling against the chain. As the draglines extended, Klein pulled Harlan aside again, voice rising just enough. "Boss, the SEAL dog's done its job, but pushing more? We're burning fuel, and command's breathing down my neck. If we pull nothing, it's on us, and them." He jerked a thumb toward Hale, the implication clear. Outsiders complicating a local matter. Harlan hesitated, glancing at the water, then at the mother. "Klein, ease off. The dogs earned its keep. But the doubt spread. A volunteer echoed Klein and whispers reached the media cluster. Hale felt the shift, the morning's unity fracturing under fatigue and turf. Reyes repeated over comms, "Hale, confirm extraction prep, no deviations." Protocol demanded obedience. Hale's career rode on it, yet conscience flared. Rex had never been wrong, and abandoning the track now felt like leaving a squad behind in the wire. He crouched by Rex, murmuring, "Stay," the dog's eyes meeting his with that profound trust. Hale's fingers traced the harness, worn from years of shared burdens. The quiet nights in barracks, where Rex sensed his handler's doubts before words formed. Loyalty like that didn't bend to orders. It defined them. Standing, Hale approached Harlan. "Sheriff, permission to extend the track? Rex is locked on a current line, could save hours." Harlan weighed it, radio in hand. Klein interjected, "That's overstepping, petty officer. We're not your playground." The words landed public, witnesses turning, deputies, volunteers, the mother frozen mid-step. Hale's jaw set, uniform straight, despite the heat. "Not overstepping. Sergeant, assisting, per joint agreement." Tension crackled, sharper than radio static. Reyes broke in. "Hale, negative, pull back." But Hale held position, eyes on Harlan. The sheriff exhaled, nodding once. "Run it, but if it goes south, it's on you." Defiance flickered in Hale, not rebellion but the moral pivot where duty met right. The team watched, the dock a stage for the reckoning. Rex surged forward on command, nose to the water's flow, Hale trailing. The boat adjusted course, sonar pinging anew. Klein muttered, but Harlan silenced him. As they pushed into the channel, Hale felt the ripple, his choice visible, testing the bonds of command. The bay's current tugged at the lines, mirroring the pull within, obedience or integrity with Emily's fate in the balance. Rex led unerringly, the team's eyes on them, the morning's routine yielding to a deeper trial of trust and resolve. The channel narrowed, mangroves brushing the hulls, the air cooler under the overhanging branches. Rex's pace quickened, tail flagging subtly, a sign Hale knew well from trail runs. They rounded a bend, the inlet widening to reveal a secluded cove hidden from the main dock. There, snagged on a root tangle, bobbed a life vest, small pink, Emily's name scrawled in marker. "Contact!" Hale called, pointing. The boat veered, crew securing the vest. Inside the pocket a note, scribbled coordinates, a plea. "Help! Stuck! Not drowning, but trapped, perhaps in the mangroves during a tide shift." Harlan's face lit with urgency. "Radio search and rescue, now!" As medevac choppers thrummed in the distance, Klein fell silent, the skepticism dissolving in the find. Reyes's calm stayed quiet, approval unspoken. Hale scratched Rex's ears, the dog's sides heaving with satisfaction. The act of pushing forward, defying the pullback, had bridged the gap. Military precision meeting human need. But repercussions loomed, reports to file, chains to answer. Hale stood taller, the weight of integrity settling like a earned medal, as the first responders closed in on the cove's edge. "Comment where you're watching from. I want to know how far stories of courage and integrity can reach." The medevac helicopter's rotors sliced through the humid air, a low thrum building as it crested the mangroves and hovered over the cove. Hale shielded his eyes against the downdraft, the blades whipping salt spray from the water into a fine mist that stung his skin. Rex pressed close to his leg, unfazed by the noise, his nose still twitching toward the tangle of roots where the life vest had snagged. The note, Emily's hurried scrawl on a soaked scrap of paper, lay in Harlan's gloved hand, coordinates smudged but legible, pointing to a narrow inlet further upstream. Rescuers rappelled down, their boots splashing into the shallows, voices sharp over the wind. "Grid the bank, thermal scan active." Hale's radio crackled with base traffic. Echo Platoon's channel alive now with confirmations from Reyes. Hale, report full. Extraction on standby if locals clear. The commander's tone held no rebuke, but Hale sensed the undercurrent. The debrief would come later, dissecting every step beyond protocol. He clipped Rex's lead shorter, the dog's harness damp from the mist, and scanned the team. Deputies fanned out along the muddy bank, flashlights cutting through the dappled shade, despite the afternoon light filtering through the leaves. Volunteers, faces streaked with sweat and relief, clustered at the cove's mouth, their earlier fatigue replaced by a quiet resolve. Harlan approached, the life vest draped over his arm like evidence in a chain of custody bag. "Petty officer, that dog of yours. Rex just turned this around. Kid's alive. Coordinates match a known fishing spot. Tide trapped her up there." He extended a hand, grip firm, the sheriff's mustache twitching in what might have been a smile. "Join tops a success on your lead." Klein lingered at the boat's rail, arms crossed, his earlier protests silenced by the tangible proof. No words from him, just a nod that carried the weight of concession, eyes avoiding Hale's. "Acknowledged, Sheriff," Hale replied, saluting crisply. "Rex tracks what we miss. Glad we pushed it." The words hung simple, no boast, just fact. In the SEALs, credit diffused through the unit, but here, with civilians watching, the moment felt exposed, like a classified after-action report leaked to daylight. Emily's mother, who'd followed the convoy in her sedan, stood at the water's edge now, hands clasped, whispering to a deputy. Her gaze found Hale and Rex, gratitude raw in the lines of her face. The chopper's crew radioed confirmation, thermal signature detected, small and vital, huddled in a root hollow. "Evac in 5, med team inbound." As the first responders closed the distance, Hale felt the shift in the air, the search's chaos yielding to procedure, boats idled, engines idling low, while sonar units powered down, their screens going dark. But beneath the efficiency, ripples spread, the defiance of Reyes's pullback order, now public knowledge among the joint team. Klein's mutter had witnesses. Harlan's approval amplified it. Hale's choice, born of conscience, had bridged the gap, but chains of command didn't bend without echo. Back at the main dock as the sun dipped toward the horizon, the team regrouped under the pop-up tent. Folding chairs, scraping on weathered planks, media vans lined the access road, reporters held at bay by tape, their cameras capturing the triumphant return, the chopper banking away with Emily aboard, stable but shaken. Harlan briefed the press pool, his voice steady over the microphone. "Thanks to military K-9 support, we located the child. Echo Platoon's assets were key. No names, no drama, just protocol acknowledging alliance." But whispers circulated among the deputies, Klein's skepticism evolving into reluctant respect, shared over lukewarm coffee from a thermos. Reyes arrived in a base SUV, uniform impeccable despite the drive, his presence drawing the team's attention like a formation snap. He pulled Hale aside near the water's edge, the bay's evening lap providing cover for the exchange. "Petty officer, walk me through it." Hale recounted the sequence: Rex's alert, the backpack recovery, the downstream track, the push against extraction. No excuses, just timeline and rationale, Rex's signal overriding doubt, the moral calculus of a life in the balance. The lieutenant commander's eyes narrowed, not in anger but assessment, the lines around them deepening in the fading light. "You deviated from my order. Joint Ops Protocol is deference to primary. Support, not commandeer." Hale stood at attention, boots planted on the salt-crusted wood, Rex sitting alert beside him. "Understood, sir, but the dog's read was evidentiary. Abandoning it risked the outcome." Reyes paused, glancing at the dog, whose ears flicked at the tension. "Integrity noted, Hale, but the report goes up the chain. JAG will review. Could be a commendation or a reprimand. Echo platoon doesn't operate in grey. Hale nodded, the weight settling. Careers hinged on such moments, a spotless record from deployments, now tested by a civilian search. Loyalty to Reyes, to the SEAL ethos, clashed with the quiet victory of the save. "Aye, sir, ready for debrief." Reyes clapped his shoulder once, brief and formal, then turned to Harlan for the handover. As they conferred, Klein approached Hale unbidden, extending a water bottle from the tent's cooler. "Didn't think the military dog would call the shots," he said, voice low, no edge left. "But you did right. Kid safe because of it." The gesture bridged the divide, small but real, exhaustion yielding to shared purpose. Volunteers dispersed, posters crumpled in pockets, the town exhaling. But for Hale, the reckoning loomed larger. Base command would dissect the op. Witnesses' statements pulled for the file. Media snippets already buzzed on scanners. SEAL defies orders to save girl. The story leaking beyond the dock. Rex leaned against his leg, a subtle press of warmth. The bond, a silent anchor amid the scrutiny. Night fell soft over the inlet. Stars pricking the sky as the team packed gear. Leads coiled, evidence bagged, radios silenced. Hale loaded Rex into the Humvee, the dog's paws leaving muddy prints on the seat. Driving back to base, the coastal road wound through darkened oaks, headlights cutting the fog. Reyes's SUV tailed them, a reminder of the chain unbroken. Hale's mind replayed the dock. The sit, the push, the save. Duty had flexed, conscience held firm, but the institution's response would test if integrity reformed or rebuked. Rex's head rested on his thigh, breathing steady, trust absolute. In the quiet cab, with the hum of tires on asphalt, Hale knew the trial was just beginning, the personal cost of right etched into the rank's unyielding code. The Humvee's tires crunched over the gravel approach to the naval base. The security gate's floodlights cutting harsh angles across the windshield as Hale flashed his ID. Rex shifted in the back, a soft huff escaping as the engine idled down. The clock on the dash read 2130 hours, 12 hours since the dawn formation, the day's weight settling into Hale's shoulders like a rucksack after a forced march. Reyes's SUV pulled alongside in the parking lot, the lieutenant commander's door opening with a precise click. Hale exited, boots hitting the pavement with a familiar thud, and clipped Rex's lead, the dog's nails clicking softly in rhythm. "Secure your gear, petty officer," Reyes said, his voice even under the sodium lamp's glow. "Debrief in the ready room, 2200 sharp. Bring your logs." No mention of the deviation yet, but the order's edge implied it. Hale saluted, fist to chest, watching Reyes stride toward the headquarters building, silhouette sharp against the lit windows. The base hummed quietly at night. Distant rotor wash from a helipad, the faint tang of jet fuel drifting on the breeze off the bay. Echo platoon's barracks loomed ahead, a squat brick structure flanked by flagpoles, the American Eagle stark in the floodlight. Inside, the team had already gathered in the common area, 6 men in PT gear, wiping down rifles and stowing packs with methodical care. They looked up as Hale entered, nods exchanged, no fanfare. "Good track, Hale," said Petty Officer Second Class Torres, his hands pausing on a cleaning rod. Torres had run Overwatch from the second Humvee, eyes on the scopes all day. Rex pulled it off. The others murmured agreement, a low chorus of "aye" and "solid work," but their glances lingered, aware of the comms chatter they'd overheard, the pullback order ignored. Hale unharnessed Rex, filling the dog's bowl from the tap, the water splashing cool against ceramic. "Team effort," he replied, keeping it brief, protocol over praise. He logged the op in his notebook, timestamps for alerts, recoveries, the downstream push. The entry blurred slightly under the fluorescent hum, fatigue tugging at his focus. Loyalty to the platoon meant owning the grey. His choice had saved Emily, but it tested the unit's cohesion. As Rex lapped steadily, Hale felt the dog's presence like a steadying force, the bond a quiet counter to the impending scrutiny. At 2200, the ready room door swung open to Reyes and a JAG officer, Lieutenant Ellis, her uniform pinned with ribbons from shore duty. The room smelled of coffee grounds and oiled metal, maps of the inlet pinned to the walls from earlier briefs. The platoon stood as Reyes entered, chairs scraping back in unison. "At ease," he commanded, taking the head of the table. Ellis at his side with a tablet glowing softly. Hale sat, Rex curling under the table at his feet, the dog's warmth grounding. "Joint op recap," Reyes began, voice clipped like a sitrep. "Echo platoon provided K9 support per request. Outcome, civilian recovered, no casualties." He nodded to Ellis, who tapped her screen. Local PD filed a commendation. Sheriff Harlan credits the track for the save. Media's running it clean. Military K9 turns the tide. Projections flickered on the wall. News clips from Elmwood. The dock scene pixelated but unmistakable. Rex's sit captured in grainy footage. Ellis leaned forward, her tone neutral, procedural. "Petty Officer Hale, your logs note a deviation at 14:30 hours. Lieutenant Commander Reyes ordered extraction prep. You requested extension from local command." The room stilled. Breaths measured. Hale met her gaze, posture straight. "Affirmative, ma'am." Rex indicated a continuing scent line, post-backpack recovery. Per K9 protocol, alerts require follow-through unless contradicted by command. Sheriff Harlan approved. "I proceeded under joint authority." Reyes interjected, his fingers drumming once on the table, subtle, controlled. "Joint authority defers to primary lead, Hale. Your action overrode my direct order. Witnesses, Deputy Klein, volunteers, heard the exchange. This isn't a solo op, it's chain of command." The words landed heavy, echoing the base's core. Obedience as survival. Torres shifted beside Hale, silent support. But the platoon knew the stakes. A formal inquiry could ding Hale's quals, sideline Rex for research. Hale nodded, voice steady. "Understood, sir. The deviation was to preserve the track. Emily Carter's life at risk. Rex's signal was clear. Pulling back risked loss." Ellis noted it, her stylus scratching digital ink. "Moral calculus noted. But procedure exists for a reason. We'll pull statements from Elmwood. Sheriff, deputy, mother. If it escalates to tribunal, it's on record." She paused, eyes scanning the team. "Echo platoon. This highlights joint ops friction. Recommendations for protocol tweaks?" Murmurs rose. "Better inter-agency briefs. K9 lead integration." Reyes steered it, assigning Torres to draft. But as the meeting wrapped, he pulled Hale aside in the corridor, the door clicking shut behind them. Hall lights buzzed overhead, casting long shadows. "You're a good operator, Hale. Rex too. But integrity without discipline fractures the unit." Hale saluted. The motion held a beat longer. "Aye, sir. Won't happen again." Reyes's expression softened fractionally. "See that it doesn't. But the save. It matters. Base command's watching." Outside, the night air cooled Hale's skin as he walked Rex toward the kennels, the dog's steps syncing with his. Floodlights swept the paths, sentries nodding from posts. Word had spread. Whispers in the mess about the dock defiance, respect mingling with caution. Klein's earlier nod replayed in Hale's mind, the deputy's concession a small reform in itself. Locals seeing K9 value beyond skepticism. But the JAG probe loomed, a public reckoning in classified halls where one man's conscience tested the system's rigid frame. In the kennel, Hale brushed Rex's coat, the bristles whispering against damp fur, the ritual a balm. The dog leaned in, eyes reflecting the low bulb's glow, trust unbroken. Hale's hand paused on the dog's flank, feeling the steady heartbeat. Duty had demanded obedience, morality had pulled him forward. Now the institution would weigh it, commendation or cost, legacy in the balance. As the base settled into quiet, rotors fading in the distance, Hale locked the gate, the click echoing his resolve. The trial ahead would reveal if one act could bend the chain without breaking it, forging quiet change from the rank's unyielding core. The fluorescent lights of the JAG office buzzed faintly as Hale entered at 0800 the next morning, his boots echoing softly on the linoleum floor. Rex padded beside him, lead clipped short, the dog's nails tapping a steady rhythm that cut through the administrative hush. The air carried the sterile scent of polished wood and fresh ink, a far cry from the bay's briny tang. Lieutenant Ellis waited behind her desk, a stack of folders open before her, her uniform crisp under the window's slant of sunlight. Reyes stood at attention nearby, arms crossed, his presence a silent pillar of the chain. "Petty Officer Hale," Ellis said, gesturing to a chair without preamble. "Sit. We've pulled initial statements from Elmwood. Proceed with your account." Hale took the seat, Rex curling at his feet with a soft settle, the dog's head resting on his boot. He recounted the op again. Dock alert, backpack recovery, the downstream push, voice level, eyes forward, no embellishment. Protocol demanded precision, emotion stayed leashed, emerging only in the slight tension of his grip on the chair arm. Ellis nodded, flipping pages. "Sheriff Harlan's statement supports your extension request. K9 lead was pivotal, approval given under Joint Ops Clause. Deputy Klein's is mixed. Notes the public exchange and your override of military comms. Volunteers corroborate the save, but highlight the friction. Seal pushed when we were ready to scale back." She set the tablet down, her gaze steady. Media's amplifying it. Local news, defiant dog handler saves girl. Base PR's monitoring, no leaks yet, but it's public. Reyes shifted, his voice measured. "The deviation's on record, Hale. JAG inquiry formalizes it. Potential Article 92 violation, failure to obey order. But the outcome mitigates. Emily Carter's stable, her family sending thanks through channels." Hale nodded, the words landing like a briefing update. Careers turned on such balances, commendations for saves, reprimands for bends in the line. Rex's ear flicked at a distant door slam, sensing the undercurrent Hale felt, scrutiny's weight, rippling from platoon to command. The inquiry stretched through the morning, Ellis probing details with clinical efficiency. "Why not defer fully to locals post-backpack?" she asked, stylus poised. Hale met her eyes. "Rex's alert indicated continuation, ma'am. In K9 ops, interrupting a track risks evidence loss. The girl's life outweighed protocol delay." She noted it, the room's clock ticking audibly. Outside the base stirred, formations marching on the quad, the sharp snap of salutes carrying through the open window. Echo platoon trained on without him today, Torres handling K9 drills, Rex's absence a gap in the routine. By noon, Ellis concluded the session. "Full review in 48 hours. Stand by for tribunal if escalated." Reyes escorted Hale out, the corridor's cool air a brief respite. "Keep it tight," he said lowly, clapping Hale's shoulder. "Platoon's got your back, but command tests resolve." Hale saluted, leading Rex toward the kennels, the dog's stride syncing with his own. The path wound past the helipad, where a Black Hawk idled, rotors still, the hum of maintenance blending with gulls crying over the bay. Word had filtered through the ranks, mess hall chatter about the Elmwood play, respect laced with wariness. One operator's grey area call could rewrite quals for all. Afternoon brought the first ripple, a call from Harlan routed through baselines. "Petty Officer, Sheriff here. Wanted to say, Klein's coming around. He's pushing for K9 cross-training in our next drill. Your push showed us what we missed." Hale gripped the receiver, Rex nosing his knee. "Appreciate it, sir. Rex earned it." The gesture warmed the institutional chill, local reform sparked by the save, a quiet bridge over turf lines. But as he hung up, a base email pinged. "PR alert, media inquiries spiking." "No comment," it read. The story's visibility grew, testing the SEAL's veil of discretion. Evening fell with a tribunal shadow. Reyes summoned the platoon to the ready room. Maps rolled away, replaced by a projector humming to life. "Full disclosure," he announced, the team at ease around the table, faces etched from the day's PT. Hale stood at the front, Rex at heel, as Reyes outlined the inquiry. Statements, media, the deviation's crux. Hale's action saved a life, but it bent chain, lesson for all. Torres spoke first, voice steady. "Sir, joint ops need flex. K9 protocols should integrate clearer. Recommend base-wide brief on civilian handoffs." Murmurs agreed, ideas flowing, shared scent training, liaison roles for K9 handlers in mixed teams. Hale listened, Rex's presence a subtle anchor, the dogs calm, diffusing the room's tension. Reyes nodded, assigning a working group, Hale included, his input valued despite the probe. "This isn't punishment," Reyes said finally. "It's evolution. Integrity drives reform, but discipline holds the line." The meeting broke with salutes, the platoon dispersing to barracks, low voices carrying approval. Hale walked Rex under the floodlights, the night's chill seeping through his jacket, stars sharp above the bay. In the kennel, as Hale filled the water bowl, a junior handler approached, Petty Officer Ruiz, eyes wide. "Heard about the dock, Hale." Rex sat like he knew. "Teach me that, Reed." Hale paused, brushing Rex's flank, the fur soft under calloused fingers. "It's trust, Ruiz. Dog senses what orders miss. Drills build it." The exchange lingered, mentorship budding from the trial, a ripple Hale hadn't foreseen. Back in quarters, he reviewed his logs by desk lamp. The bulbs glow, casting shadows on the walls, lined with deployment photos. Rex in sand, Hale's hand on the harness. The inquiry loomed, public in its classified way, witnesses from Elmwood to base weighing his stand. Sleep came fitful, Rex's breathing a steady rhythm from the foot of the bunk. Dawn would bring the review's verdict, commendation etching legacy, or reprimand a cautionary mark. But in the quiet, Hale felt the shift, his defiance not fracture but forge. Klein's nod, Harlan's call, the platoon's ideas, they wove conscience into the system, loyalty to Rex extending to reform. The base's hum faded, rotors silent, as Hale closed his eyes. The cost of integrity, a bridge from personal trial to institutional quietude. The chain bending toward light. If this story already has your respect, hit the like button. It helps the story of Marcus Hale reach those who still believe in honor. The JAG review convened under the low hum of the conference room's ventilation, sunlight slanting through reinforced blinds to stripe the oak table. Hale sat at attention in his dress blues, the fabric starched and heavy. Rex positioned precisely at his left side, under the table's edge, the dog's harness a faint pressure against his boot. Lieutenant Ellis presided, flanked by Reyes and a base commander, Captain Lang, whose ribbons gleamed under the fluorescence like polished brass. The air held the faint scent of briefing paper and machine oil from the adjacent ops wing, a reminder of the base's ceaseless rhythm beyond the inquiry's confines. "Petty Officer Hale," Ellis began, her voice even, tablet open to the compiled file. "The board has reviewed statements, logs, and op footage. Your deviation from Lieutenant Commander Reyes's extraction order is substantiated. Article 92 applies, failure to obey a superior's directive in a non-combat scenario." Hale's posture remained rigid, eyes forward, the weight of the words settling like a rucksack cinch. Rex shifted subtly, a low exhale brushing Hale's ankle, the bond a quiet tether amid the formality. No plea, no defense, protocol held silence as virtue. Lang leaned forward, his gaze appraising, the lines on his face etched from years of command decisions. However, the outcome overrides. Emily Carter's recovery, directly attributable to your K9 extension, mitigates fully. Sheriff Harlan's commendation carries weight. local PDs integrating K9 protocols into their training grid as a direct result. He slid a folder across. Official letterhead from Elmwood, Harlan's signature bold. Deputy Klein's addendum notes the value of military instinct in joint ops. Media containment held. No escalation to public tribunal. Reyes nodded once, his expression neutral, the earlier tension in his shoulders eased by the verdict. Formal reprimand on record, Hale, but paired with a unit citation for Echo Platoon. Your action highlights a gap. Joint ops need clearer integration for K9 leads. Base commands greenlighting a revision. Mandatory cross-agency briefs. Starting next quarter, you'll co-lead the first session with Torres. The words landed as resolution, not rebuke, the system's machinery adapting, bending without fracture. Hale saluted from his seat, fist precise. Aye, sir. Honored to contribute. The board adjourned with clipped efficiency, chairs scraping back in unison, the doors click echoing down the corridor. Outside, the base stirred toward midday, boots thudding on the quad during a drill formation, the distant crackle of radio checks blending with gulls over the bay. Hale clipped Rex's lead, the dog's steps sinking as they emerged into the sunlight, warmth cutting through the chill of judgment. No fanfare awaited, just the platoon's routine, but whispers had evolved into nods of solidarity, operators pausing mid-task to offer a quiet "well done" or a pat to Rex's flank. Afternoon training resumed in the dunes, sand shifting underfoot as Echo Platoon ran scent drills, Rex leading a mock urban track through simulated barriers. Hale's commands rang clear. Such Rex, the Malinois weaving unerringly, his alert a model for the junior handlers watching from the sidelines. Ruiz approached post-drill, notebook in hand, sweat beading on his brow. Show me the read again, Hale. How'd you know to push at the dock? Hale knelt, demonstrating the harness cues, Rex sitting on command, the explanation procedural, scent persistence, body language, the instinct honed in silence. It's not defiance, he said, voice low amid the wind-whipped dunes. It's trust, dog to handler. Handler to mission. Chain bends when lives demand it. Word spread beyond the platoon. Base-wide memo on the revisions. K9 integration slotted into quarterly agendas. Harlan's team invited for the inaugural brief. Klein even called again, tone gruff but genuine. Sending 2 deputies your way, petty officer. Figure we learn from the best nose on base. The exchange, routed through channels, wove civilian and military threads tighter, reform sparked by one dockside stand, rippling from Elmwood's inlet to Virginia's shores. Media faded to footnote, the story internalized. A handler's integrity, proving the system's strength in adaptation. Evening brought the platoon to the mess hall, trays clattering under the vaulted ceiling. The scent of chow lines mingling with sea air through open vents. Reyes joined them unannounced, taking a seat at the long table, his tray simple, coffee black, MRE remnants. "Hail," he said over the low murmur, fork pausing. The reprimands filed, but the citation goes public in the next newsletter. Echo's legacy just got a chapter. The team raised mugs in subtle toast, no cheers. Just the quiet affirmation of shared code. Torres clapped Hale's back lightly. "You and Rex set the standard." Hale nodded, scratching Rex's ears under the table, the dog's fur warm from the day's exertions. The reprimand stung like a fresh bruise, a mark on quals that might slow a deployment slot, but the reform outweighed it. Mentorship lines drawn, protocols evolved, loyalty extended beyond handler and dog to the broader ranks. Emily's family sent a package through base mail, a framed photo of her at home, smiling with a note, "Rex is our hero." Hale pinned it to his bunk wall, the image a talisman amid the barracks' stark lines. Night deepened over the base, floodlights sweeping the paths as Hale walked Rex one last time. The inlet's distant lap, a soft underscore. The dog's pace matched his, shadows long under the oaks, the air cooling to carry hints of salt and pine. In the kennel, as Hale secured the gate, the lock's click echoed finality. The trial resolved, conscience vindicated not in absolution, but in quiet transformation. Hale became more than operator, symbol of the line where orders met right, his stand forging bridges in rigid halls. Rex's eyes met his through the wire, steady and profound, the bond a legacy etched in every track ahead. The system, once unyielding, now wiser in its discipline. Subscribe for more stories of loyalty, courage, and justice within the ranks. Thank you for watching the case of the town searched for hours, until the SEAL's dog sat down at an empty boat dock. See you in the next one.